Today I'm going to be giving a construction update on the 100% restoration and remodel of my great-great-grandfather's $7,000 mansion. Now before we get started, my name is Cole. I am a 27-year-old farmer. I raise 1,000 acres of corn and 1,000 acres of soybeans. So I farm 2,000 acres total, and I also dig graves for 18 cemeteries. So I'm a farmer, a grave digger, and I guess for the last 6 years now, I've been a YouTuber. Besides being a farmer, gravedigger, and YouTuber, there's really only two things that you need to know about me. The first one is I am extremely curious and I like to learn. The second thing is I like to teach what I have learned, because when I'm learning things, I make a lot of mistakes. And then if I can teach other people the mistakes that I've made, then I can either help them financially, emotionally, or time-actually, which is actually one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel. I wanted to teach the experiences that I have getting into farming and getting into all these construction projects and everything else that I do. Back to the construction update. In 1933, my great-great-grandfather bought this house. He actually used to live in the house right across the road, and then he ended up moving over here. So our property consists of all the way from the grain bins on the right side to the buildings to the house, all the way to the other side of these trees. It's 17 acres in total of yard space and building / bin site space. I've been living here for the last 5 years. Well, technically the last 4, because I've been living at my parents' house for almost a year now while we have been working on this. But when I moved in, we'll just say that my work was cut out for me. Another fun fact about me, I'm an organizer. I don't believe in a junk drawer. I color code my clothes in my closet. So reds are with reds, blues are with the blues, greens are with greens. So when it came to the cleanliness and overall tidiness of the farm, it wasn't quite to my standards. So I got to work. With all of the rotten trees knocked down, all of the scrap metal and junk picked up, and the outside of the house re-sided, I was ready to go tackle the inside. Now, as beautiful as the inside of the house was, it definitely had its fair share of problems, like The ceilings were starting to fall in some of the rooms. We had no electricity in the upstairs of the house. The plumbing upstairs did not work, and if we hooked it up, it leaked all over downstairs. We had one bathroom right off of the kitchen. The kitchen was updated in the 1980s, but the rest of the house was wired on 1917 knob and tube wiring. The insulation behind the walls was falling down. None of the rooms really had outlets in them, and you couldn't even shut most of the doors in the house because things had settled over time. And I can't forget to mention that the septic line going out of the house was about 50 years overdue for an update. And back in 1917, when they designed houses, they used the rooms for, well, a lot different purposes than what we use them for today. So we have 15 rooms in the house that were super compartmentalized, so we'd only end up using about 6 of them. So if I'm paying a $400 a month heating bill, I want to be able to use all 15. And for the 2 other bonus problems that I forgot about, which are problems, but I mean, you can toughen up and get through them, but they are nice to have. We had no air conditioning, and there was 2 rooms that did not have heat. So I don't know if it's the fact that I've been farming my entire life, so the quit button has just been completely ripped out from my body, or if I'm just stubborn, but I decided I was going to do a 100% restoration and remodel on the entire house. I mean, the entire thing. So on January 1st, 2024, I got started with demolition and construction. Here's where I'm gonna give you the opportunity to just sit back, relax, maybe get something to drink, something to eat, because we have done a lot, and I'm gonna talk about all of it. We got started by demolishing the attic, and then once we got the attic demolished, then we closed cell spray foam insulated the entire thing. It was the first time we ever had insulation in the ceiling, which is pretty cool. Then we jumped into the second floor, and we removed the original oak hardwood floors, and then we jumped down to the main floor of the house and we did the exact same thing. Then we tore out all of the insulation on the main floor, and then we finished removing the floors in the rest of the main floor. Then we jumped into the kitchen, then we took out the first staircase, then we took out more insulation, then we removed all of the tile in the kitchen floor, which, by the way, was over 10,000 pounds. Then we had the challenge of removing all of the antique radiators. Then we jumped down into the basement and we started demolishing the ceiling. Then we jumped into the kitchen floor and demolished and rebuilt that. Then we did the same thing in the dining room. Then we built a new wall in the kitchen. Then we removed the other staircase. Then we removed the old chimney. Then we removed the floor in the living room and replaced that. Then we rebuilt the pantry and the bathroom. Then we jumped back into the basement where we had the big creepy black tank, and we got rid of that. Then we had to start building beams in the main floor, or AKA the basement ceiling. Then we did more rebuilding of the basement ceiling. We rebuilt the kitchen ceiling. We rebuilt the kitchen. Then we tore out a wall in the middle of the basement so that way we could re-support the house. And then we ended up pouring new concrete to rebuild the wall. Then we built the wall. Then we put more beams in the basement. Then we built a new living room. Then we went to the upstairs of the house and we rebuilt the floor up there. Then we took out the ceiling in the upstairs so that way we could build a new floor in the entire attic. Then we had to build a new staircase going up into the attic. Then we started reframing all of the walls upstairs so that way we could redo the layout. Then we started rebuilding the staircase to get upstairs. Then we started building walls in the attic. Then we jumped into the basement because we had to pour a footer underneath of our existing foundation wall. Once we got that done, then we had to trench in new electricity to the house. With the new electricity installed, we had to get the well hooked up outside. And then we dug down beside the house and we cut a huge hole in the side of the basement wall so that way we could get equipment in. And then with the equipment now in the basement, we tore up the old concrete in the basement floor and got rid of it. Then we brought in rock, we installed a tile perimeter drain system and a radon mitigation system. We redid all of the plumbing in the basement, and then we got started digging the underground movie theater. When we were in the middle of digging the underground movie theater, we hit groundwater. So we ended up digging a giant drainage ditch to get rid of the water, and then we dug more in the basement, and then we discovered an underground spring of sorts, and so we had to dig a second drainage ditch, and we got all the water out. So that brings us to today. We now have an attic that is all clean. Everything is all spray foamed on the ceiling. Well, we do have a spot right there where we need to get done yet because the old chimney used to be there, and we had everything spray foamed before we tore the chimney down. But we have everything framed up here. We have a brand new attic floor, so this is all ready to be built upon up here. We do have some construction that still needs to occur. These old boards that we have to duck underneath, these are going to be disappearing. We are going to be re-supporting on the ceiling, and then of course we're going to have all of our electrical, all of our drywall, all of our flooring. That still needs to be done up here yet, but the bare bones of what's up here is done. We do have a lot of re-supporting over here that we are going to have to do, but this roof right above my head, just remember this for later because we have some addressing that we are going to have to do there. But we do have the attic, the really hard stuff in the attic is done. We even have the staircase made in. We had to reconfigure the staircase, so this actually turned out pretty cool. This used to not be here. There used to be a chimney right here, but we added a second staircase in, so we can either go that way or we can go the way that you've always been able to go, which is right here. We opened up this area on the second floor. This used to be a room right here, so there used to be a hallway between these boards and these boards, and so we would have been in hallway. We would have been in hallway, but now we decided to open everything up. So we did end up taking this room out, and there used to be a room over here on the right and a room on the left, but we turned them into one room now. So then this is a closet. We are going to have a bathroom over here, and then this is just all going to be room area. So we got room number 1 up here, all framed in and done, and then room number 2, same thing. We have a room here. There used to be a bathroom right here, a 5-foot wide by 10-foot long bathroom that nothing ever worked in, or at least for my whole life. So we got rid of that, took out the wall. There used to be a bedroom over here, and we brought everything together. So this room is going to get a little bit of a change. This area is going to remain a bedroom, but this part over here we have as bathroom right now and closet. But what we are going to do is actually tear out this wall in the middle, and then we are going to run it this way instead. So we will have the bathroom right here, and then the closet will be in the back of it. So you will be walking through the bathroom to get into the closet. Once we got this laid in here, we just decided the other way would flow a little bit better. So that is work that we are going to have to do. But we can do this anytime because it's temperature controlled in here, or at least it's not all snowy and wet. So we can do that whenever we need to. But before we continue on, we are going to be addressing that at some point. So working our way downstairs, we don't have stairs in here yet for where the master staircase used to be. So that is a really far fall down there. So we're going to avoid that hole, but we are going to be building some sort of staircase over here at some point. We are just simply not there yet. We do have an electrical panel over here, and the electricity from downstairs that we brought in with the new trenching, that does connect up to this. So this is live. If I turned the switch on, we would have juice to here. I could put breakers in, and we could get everything wired. So the reason why we put this up here, this is a sub panel. It is so we can run all of our electricity upstairs to here, then we don't have to run a bunch of extra wire into the basement just to be able to get electricity up here. And then also we'll be able to hit the attic from this as well. So it'll make things a lot easier to be able to do things here. And then also if we were to trip a breaker upstairs, then we can just come right in here and flip our breaker back on, and then everything will work just fine. We do not have any plumbing done up here yet. There is going to be a bathroom over there, and there's going to be a bathroom over here, so we are going to have 2 bathrooms here, but we are not there yet. But all the framing on this floor is done. We are going to be building an addition, so I will be getting to that in a little bit. So remember that roof up there, and remember right here where the addition is going to be. But we're going to have more over there, but we'll address that here in just a little bit. So going down our next set of stairs. We did build these ones fresh. They may sound a little bit creaky right now because we have temporary coverings on the top of them. So that way when we're doing construction, we're not accidentally hurting them in any way. But right here, we do not have any spray foam insulation on this yet. This does need to be insulated because right now we took everything off. We did all the construction, and so this still needs to be done. So basically this entire corner area right here, as well as below this landing and below my feet, needs to be spray foamed. This all needs to be spray foamed. It takes us down into the main floor now. So the kitchen does not have any spray foam in it yet. We need to get that done. This door is going to be removed at some point, and I don't know if we're reconfiguring these windows. I am waiting for the designers to get back with us on what the kitchen layout is going to look like, at least as far as the windows go. That's really what I need to know for right now, so that way we can get things framed in, and then we can get things closed cell spray foam insulated, so that way when winter time comes, we can get some temporary heat in here, and then at least be able to retain it. But I guess there are some conflicting things going on the designer's end right now. I went to them, I believe, all the way back in March, and we are at the last day of August today. So we are still waiting. That is really all I can say on updates on the design aspect. But going into the dining room now, this room, we're going to get rid of that big window at some point. And there's going to be a door there, but same thing kind of with the design thing. And at least right now, this maintains heat in here. We do not have insulation underneath of that window because there was a radiator in here when they came in and blew the spray foam insulation in. We also have the same thing over here. There's another one right there. And then we actually have another one right here. So when they come in and do the kitchen and that corner, then they will also be able to hit these spots where the radiators used to be that currently do not have any insulation. But otherwise, we have all of our framing down here done. So this is going to be the living room over here on the right. We can walk in this door over here. We can walk through the living room, and then we can walk right out. We got to get spray foam insulation over that window yet. But otherwise, the pantry right here, this is all framed up. And then there is going to be a bathroom right here at the back. The doorway to actually get in doesn't exist yet because with the addition part that I'm going to be getting to here in just a little bit is going to have a door right here. So that's how we'll be able to get in. And there will actually be a hallway. So there will be a doorway right here that will allow us to walk straight through this wall, and then we will be able to pass to the other side of this wall, and there will be a hallway that will walk all the way down past this, and it'll actually take us all the way over to here, right to this window. So we'll be able to walk around this whole pantry slash bathroom area, so we can walk hot laps inside the house if we really wanted to. So making our way down into the basement now, we have not done anything with this original landing. So we have the old stairs in here yet. We've been doing a lot of in and out, so we just figured there's no point getting this new construction all super dirty yet. So we have the old stairs here, and we have the old original landing. So we are actually doing a lot of work in the basement. We've done a lot of work in the basement. Now I hope this light is going to be able to shine as brightly as I would like it to. But underneath of the stairs right here, there originally was no foundation walls whatsoever. It literally stopped right here. So this was all full of dirt. You can actually look at the concrete, and that is the dirt line. The dirt line was right here. It followed it all the way down there to the end. So it was always super cold here in the entryway of the house, and it was always really damp, and we had mice. And they all came in through here. So we have been steadily working on, I shouldn't really say we, Roman has been steadily working on digging all this dirt out. So he's taken out a lot of dirt. We did form up a bunch of rebar inside of here, and we poured our first bit of foundation wall. We also poured a footer underneath of there, and then we did it here right underneath of the entranceway. So this would have been our second foundation wall. Same thing, we poured a footer. This is all full of rebar, and then you can see a piece of the rebar sticking out right there that will tie into the next part, which is the last bit of foundation wall that we need to pour. So there's quite a bit of this dirt that needs to get pulled out yet, as well as the footer area. And then we have this entire area right here all the way up inside of there. So we are going to clean out this entire area. We will get that poured with the footer, get the rebar in there. And then underneath of this, we will also be digging this out, and then we will pour more concrete here because this holds up this entire wall that's right here that ends up dividing the stairs. So that's going to be pretty important. We do have a perimeter drain tile that runs around the entire basement right along the footers that we poured, and that ends up running out right here. You can see the tile line that dips down right there, and it runs into the one that we have under the floor, which I'll get to that here in just a little bit. But we did have to stop right here where the edge of this gravel stops. So when we end up getting everything poured in there concrete-wise, then we will be able to take out about 6 inches of this dirt that's on the floor. We will be able to bring our rock in, and before we bring our rock in, we will continue our tile line up into that corner, and then we will bring all the rock in, and the packer will get everything all packed down in here. Then this should be ready to rock and roll for concrete. We are going to be doing a heated floor down here. So what I was kind of thinking of doing, instead of coming in with the sheets of styrofoam that are 4 feet wide and 8 feet long by 2 inches thick, when they are spray foaming the upstairs, I also want them to come in and spray our sills in the basement. So those little cavities up there are our basement sills. I want them to come in and spray foam those. So that way we don't get the bugs, we don't get the cold air, the moisture, and it just makes things a lot tighter. But while they're down here, I would like them to just spray foam this rock, and they can put 2 inches of spray foam on and just cover the entire thing. And then they'd be able to get nice and tight around all of our fixtures that we have in here and all of our septic pipes that we have coming up. We just get a really nice tight seal. So that would help with keeping water down, which we obviously have the rocks to help drain it away into our drainage lines, but it would also help keep radon gas out because we would have a continuous seal. Now we do have this line right here, actually, that we can see just poking out of the rock is a radon line, so that is going to be actively sucking through the gravel to be able to pull all the radon out from underneath of the floor, or at least get it to manageable levels. But I would like them to just be able to come in and spray foam the floor. I think that would probably be the best way. And by the time we factor in all the time of us putting down the 4x8 sheets, it's probably a similar cost too, if I had to guess. And I think it'd be a little bit better product as long as they get on everything smooth, because then we are going to have to come in with our heated floor lines on top of that foam. So we are going to be running every 12 inches. There is going to be a heated floor line. And then we will lay our rebar in, we will pour the floor, and then we will have a heated floor. So this room over here, which may be just a little bit dark right now, we do have this old chimney here. This leads us into the little cubby area that is underneath of the entranceway. I would like to chip this chimney out and then have a little entranceway underneath of there. It would just be an extra storage space. It's not huge under there by any means, but it definitely would add a little area to the basement just for those odds and ends items that we would want to store. But in here we have all of our electricity, so this is temporarily paneled up a little bit, at least with the supports that we have behind it as far as the plywood and stuff goes. So we will have to move this a little bit when we actually build things out, because once we get the floor poured, then we are going to at some point have to frame up these walls on the inside. So we will actually have a wooden wall in here. So it'll be a finished basement. We are doing all these water preventative measures so we can actually finish it out down here and make it not smell like a musty, stinky basement. But as far as everything floor-wise in here goes, I think we have now covered it. We would like to get rid of this beam right here, so that way it's not coming down in the middle of the floor. And there is a bird down here, and that just scared me. But the only way we can get rid of this beam is if we take I-beams going from the top of this wall and we tuck them up inside of the floor joist cavity, and we run them all the way over to the top of this concrete wall over here. And then we will have to somehow hang these big LVL beams off of the I-beams. So we're gonna have to have two I-beams, because this is one LVL and there's another. The split is right here on top of this beam. And so then with those in place, the LVL will be hanging off of those I-beams. Then we will be able to remove this. Then we will be able to have open floor plan, at least on this half of the basement over here. So we need to figure out what kind of beams we're gonna get in there. I'm thinking we may have to do 2 of them and then weld them together, because I don't think we're gonna get one big one to fit. So that is something I'm going to have to address with my brother, because he is the professional welder of the group, so he would be able to assist us there. And then over on this side, we kind of have the exact same thing. We have these metal poles right now, but they're holding up this big LVL beam. I don't want to look at these metal poles. I think they really disrupt the flow of the room, and they're just kind of in the way, and I really don't like how they look. So I would like to take a massive I-beam and be able to put it right here. So we'll have a beam straight up and down right here, or pole that will transfer our load down into our footer. But since there's going to be a wall here, this pole is going to be hidden, and then we can put our I-beam on top of it, and then that will run all the way down over to here. And then we'll be able to do the same thing right on top of this concrete wall. We'll just be able to hide that pole right inside of the wall. So then we'll have free span going across. We won't have to worry about the poles in the middle. And we are not only going to get rid of those poles. This concrete block right here, all the way over to this corner, we want to pull this out. So then that way we have a much bigger opening into our utility room. Because right now, if you're trying to carry something through this doorway, you have half of a hair width on the outsides of your hands to be able to get it in, and it's really inconvenient. So when we pull that out, it will be nice, but we have to get this beam in first, because all of these floor joists above our heads are currently sitting on top of this. And if we were to take this wall out, then we would get our floor to bow down, which is what we don't want. So I-beam is going to have to be first. So now going to the outside of the house over here, this is our underground movie theater area. You can see more or less the dimensions of what is going to be based on all this gravel that we have laying over here. It's basically going to be center of gravel to center of gravel, and about 15 feet or so from that back wall. I don't have gravel going across the back yet. We are going to have to dig down at some point with the mini excavator on the back where our foundation wall is going to be, and then we'll dig down to where we hit some nice big chunks of rock that are super strong, so that way we won't have settlement, and then we'll end up backfilling that across. So then we'll end up making up the outline of where the underground movie theater is going to be with rock. When we do that, we are also going to have to do the exact same thing right here in front of me. Since we have this dirt face, we are going to have to install a retaining wall in the underground movie theater. It's going to look just like a wall, but it is going to act as a retaining wall. So we are going to have to dig down to that rock layer right here, and then end up backfilling and compacting with rock. So then that way we can get everything ready to be able to build our footers. So we have a lot of footer work that we need to do over here. We're gonna have to do the same thing right up here on this little shelf area. Now, before we can do that, we do need to get the I-beams in first, because everything that we do in here equipment wise needs to be done before we do any of the work over here when it comes to the actual footers and walls, because once these are up, we will not be able to get equipment down into here anymore to actually be able to get it into the basement. So those I-beams weigh a lot, so we're gonna have to use the telehandler by sticking it in through here and then somehow wiggling our beam up. I don't know how we're gonna do it yet, but we're gonna have to figure it out. But we're gonna have to do that first, as well as be able to get all of our rock and stuff in there, because it's a lot easier to bring a rock right here and then wheelbarrow it into there than to try to bring it down in 5-gallon buckets down that ladder. So we definitely have our work cut out for us, but once we get everything done in here, construction wise and equipment wise, then we will be able to jump out here. Almost. I'm actually looking at this tile line. We need to install a Y right here. So then that way, when we install our perimeter drain tile for the underground movie theater, right there we have our secondary outlet, our backup outlet. And so I want to do the same thing for this top part, have a secondary backup area where it can come in. We will also need to bring our septic lines further out into here. Right now they end basically underneath the wheelbarrow, and then we just need to bring them out here and then shoot them straight out here. So we need to get a septic permit yet, because we are going to need to get a septic tank at some point and get all of that installed, and then possibly a drain field. It just depends what our soil percolation test comes out to as to what exactly we need to do there. But then once we get all that stuff basically wrapped up, then we'll be able to come in and start laying down our footers. And once our footers are done, then we'll be able to build foundation walls. And then once the walls are done, then we will be able to start constructing everything over the top of them. Now, I'm laying this out a little simple right here, because if we go up top and look down, it'll make a little bit more sense. The area that we have with rock right now for the footers is only for the underground movie theater spot, where the actual theater area is going to be. I take that back. At the back, there is going to be a little room. We are going to have a little bit of a bump out over here on this side and kind of in this area. That's why we dug this area out more. So we are going to have to dig in our footer area and then backfill with rock over here. So we'll have to climb down there at some point. We did just get some rain, so it's a little swampy down there right now. Otherwise, I would walk in it. But once we get that measured out, then we'll be able to get that in there. And then up top where I'm standing right here, we are actually going to be having a gym and a farm office. And so we are going to have a single story area that is right here, where we will also need our footers tied in, because this is going to tie into the rest of the house, which the rest of the addition part that I said I was going to be getting to is going to consist of a bedroom on the downstairs. Then we're going to have our gym. There's going to be an office. We are going to have a garage over there. And then upstairs, depending what our designer says that we can do, there's either going to be 2 or 3 bedrooms. I would like to go the 3-bedroom route. And then we have a big room, which we would kind of like to call maybe like the school room or the teaching room of some sort. Just an environment where our kids can learn whatever they want, and we can teach in there, and we can kind of have all that stuff in that room. And then that peak of the attic right there, remember how I said, remember the ceiling when we were in the attic? We need to figure out a way to tie this, what is going to be the new part, in to that roof line. So I don't know if we're going to have to be pulling off roof, or if we can just tie into what is currently there and be able to pull things forward. But that is a question for the designer, which we are currently still waiting on the designer to get back to us on what we can do there. But we don't really have time to wait around, because we have winter time coming, and we are trying to get everything wrapped up here as far as getting things tucked up outside. I know we have a long way to go, but we'd like to get a shell up and get things at least vapor barrier covered. And then if they could come in and closed cell spray foam insulate everything, then we'd at least have an environment where we could run some temporary heat and then be able to work on the interior construction of things and the plumbing and the electrical. But we don't have time to sit and pause on this project while we wait for the designer to tell us exactly what we can do. So we're building it, and we're just gonna have to make it work. If we build something and it doesn't line up with what the designer wants to do, then we're just gonna have to figure it out, because I don't want to sit here. I've been waiting since March on this, and I still haven't heard anything yet. So maybe I just need to do a better job of getting on them. But I don't like being the person to hound people all the time. I like letting people who are good at what they do their thing and not bother them. But that's kind of something that I'm learning when you're dealing with contractors and you're dealing with suppliers on things, or people who are providing you with some type of service. You almost have to hound them, and that is like completely against who I am as a person. But the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and things don't get done unless you get on them, unless you got the very special type of person. So it is what it is, but that's basically what we have going on over here. And then once we get everything poured and stuff, then we'll be able to actually start building, which I would like to be able to provide more information on what we are building and stuff, but I'm waiting on the designer literally for like the entire upstairs and the attic plus the kitchen. So those are all some pretty big points. And then we are not going to be able to get to the garage this year, which is going to be located over here, but we are going to build everything so that way we can just get ready to tie right into it when we are ready to get to the garage that's going to be over here. So that is, in a nutshell, everything that is going on over here, or at least with a construction layout update. As we just now passed the 8-month threshold on construction on the house, there is some things that I would like to address a little bit. The first one is Justin. Where has Justin been? If you are just now tuning in, my neighbor Justin, he's been a carpenter for the last 30 years. On January 1st of 2024, he started his own business. So I was his very first customer for his own business. And he has been the mastermind behind all of the framing and fixing the floors. Basically everything we need to do within the house as far as the wood goes to get everything true and level and flat and on the same plane. That has been Justin. And Justin has not been here for the last little while because, well, Roman and I were digging the underground movie theater and doing the dirt work. That's kind of outside of Justin's specialty. Like, he can help, he knows what he's doing. He's probably just as useful as I am when it comes to actually doing the work. He's a smart cookie, so he'd be able to pretty much figure out anything that he needed to. But he just asked if he could go work on other jobs as far as building things with wood and construction go, while Roman and I mess around with the dirt work and some of the smaller concrete work. I don't know if we're going to get Justin's help for pouring the foundation walls or not, but if we have to do that ourselves, we have to do that ourselves. But that's where Justin's been. So he will be coming back when we get to actually building the wooden shell, doing all the vapor barrier wrapping, siding, windows, roof, that kind of thing. So Justin will be back. He's just working on other jobs right now while we get the concrete stuff taken care of. Hands down, the most common question that I have been asked is, knowing what I know now, if we started all over on the project from the beginning, would I have just knocked everything down and started from scratch? And the answer to that is absolutely. Absolutely not. I have been having so much fun on this project. It is completely different than what I do on the farm. It's a different type of my brain. I get to use different sets of problem-solving skills and learning to work together as a team with Justin and Roman and be able to get us all on the same page to be able to get the end product. That has just been a new skill development for me. It's been a lot of fun and I have really enjoyed it. So no, I would not want to tear everything down and start completely over from scratch. I very much so enjoyed the route that we have taken. To be completely honest, the hardest part about this entire project is the fact that all of my spare time is going into working on the house, and none of my spare time is going into training and working out. I really enjoy training and working out, so since we basically started on the house, my training has been almost zero. So that's been the hardest part for me. I don't like missing time in the gym, but I also really want to get the house done, so it's just one of those sacrifices that I'm having to make right now. Now, when it comes to the timeline and the budget, we are on time and we are on budget. Now, this is going to be the most un-Cole-like thing you've ever heard come out of my mouth, but there is no timeline and there is no budget. They always say that a project costs twice as much money as you plan on, and it takes twice as long. So I did not set a budget and I did not set a timeline, so that way we will save money and we will also save time. Okay, I'm actually kidding here, but I am not kidding about the no timeline and no budget. So the reason why we don't have a timeline is because I've never built a house like this before. How am I supposed to know how long it is going to take? I can say whatever I want. But at the end of the day, since we're the ones doing the work, it's going to take as long as it takes. So the only thing I can control in this equation is just making sure we are showing up every day and putting in as much work as we possibly can to be able to get the project done as fast as we can. But there's just, like, it takes time. Like, we have to be there to actually do the work. So as long as it takes, is as long as it takes. Now, when I say that this project has no budget, I do not mean that this is an unlimited spend project. What I mean is I did not go to a general contractor and have them put together a proposal saying this is exactly what the price is going to be. And since we do not have this piece of paper, that means we do not have a budget for the project, but that does not mean that we do not have a price range that we are working in. So I guess technically speaking, we do have a budget. We just don't have an official one from a contractor. And the reason why we don't have one from a contractor is because we are doing the work ourselves, which also means that we should be able to come in somewhere around 50% the cost of what a contractor would charge. And just one little example of how doing things with our own two hands and by bringing crews in-house has saved us money is with the footer underneath of the foundation wall. So when we originally got into the basement, we discovered we did not have this footer underneath. It was just the foundation wall. So we were worried about settlement over time. Even though it had been here for the last 100 years, we wanted to put this in while we had everything all tore out. So then that way, all the weight and everything we do in the future, we don't have to worry about any settlement because we have a footer. So we installed a footer. Now, if we were to have a contractor come in for what I was able to find where people would actually list prices on things, a foot of underpinning, which is what putting a footer underneath of the foundation wall is called, costs anywhere from, so this much right here, $400 to $550 for this much. And we had the entire perimeter of the basement to do. So it wasn't just this room, it also goes in here, all the way underneath of the stairs, and then all the way wraps around. There is a lot of perimeter in here to do. And then we also did this interior wall right here as well. So that adds up to be even more. So at $400 per foot, if we had a contractor come in, it would have cost almost $70,000 just to put this footer in, nothing else. And if we went up to $550, add 25% to that. So, I mean, you'd be pretty stinking close to $100 grand just for the footer. But we put this footer in. We also put this sump pump in. We got the drain line for the sump pump. There is an interior perimeter drain tile that runs around the entire basement. We have everything all plumbed in, all 4 floor drains. We have 3 risers that will collect septic from upstairs, 4-inch Schedule 40 piping. It runs all the way through, goes in under the wheelbarrow to go out. That room, that room, that room. There is a toilet shower setup that is all plumbed up and ready to go right here. We do need to get the shower part in yet for the P-trap, but that's it. Otherwise, that's all ready. We have a radon mitigation line that goes the entire area around the basement as well. We pulled out all of the concrete that used to be in here, got rid of that. We dug the floor down a few inches, and then we put in all of this crushed stone. All of the labor, well, I don't know if you'd call this crushed stone, whatever it is, 1-inch clean rock. But all of the materials to be able to do all of this, and the labor has been less than $30,000. So we are at not even half of what a contractor would have charged for just the underpinning process, not any of this other stuff, and we are at half of the cost, and that includes labor and materials. So that's just one little example, and pretty much everything else in the house has been an extremely similar story. So that's just the power of doing things in-house and doing things with our own two hands. Please keep in mind, the reason why we are able to do this ourselves is because we have the skills to be able to do it, we have the tools to be able to do it, and we are also willing to assume the risk of being able to do it ourselves. Generally speaking, when you hire a contractor, they are going to bring in their skills, they are going to bring in their tools, and they are going to be the ones assuming the risk. But since we have all those things here That is why we are able to do it. I understand not everybody has that, but all the experiences I've had in my life have kind of led me up to this moment. Roman went to school to be a civil engineer in Ukraine, and he's done a lot of construction projects on a lot of things, so he is extremely comfortable and understands it well. And then Justin has been doing this for 30 years, so he knows it like the back of his hand.
So with that being said, I have this big old list right here. This list has things on it that still need to be done. So everything that has a check mark beside it, I know exactly what we need to do it, and we know how to do it. These are all not problems for us. But the stuff that does not have a check mark beside it yet, I either don't know the amount of materials that I'm going to need yet, or I don't know how to do it, or it's going to be a combination of the two. What materials do we use? What dimensions do we need? How much of it do we need? Where do I get it from? I do have that question on a few things. This is actually where I would really appreciate some help from you guys. If you are a professional in any of these areas, could you please write down in the comments on what you think I should do and your reasons for why. So the way I'm gonna lay this out is I'm gonna have each of the things that I need help on, I'm gonna have a number beside them. So we're gonna start with number 1 and then work our way up to whatever it is. So if you know the answer to, or what you think we should do to, let's say problem number 1, just write in the comments, hey Cole, for problem number 1, this is what I think you should do. And then just change the number of the problem on whatever one is your area of expertise. That is if you want to, and you would like to help me, or at least be able to point me in the right direction, so that way I kind of know maybe where I should be doing a little bit of my research. So thank you in advance here. So let's get started with thing number 1. So first thing, if we look underneath of these windows, we can see where some water streaks have came in. We need to lower the ground level outside because when it gets rain, that water just pools up on the ground and it comes right in underneath of this windowsill. So that's what's running down here. But I have noticed there are a few random weep holes. Like right here is one where some water runs in when it rains. Right here is another one. Like there's several all the way through this little ridge right here. We want to do a fully finished basement. We are going to frame up walls. We would like to insulate, and then we would like to put sheetrock on it. So we cannot have water running in the inside of our walls. Do we take one of those dimple-backed vapor barriers and then slap that up on the inside of the wall? It seems like I've had kind of mixed reviews on those when I've looked them up. But then if we had that in here, if water were to come in, let's say this weep hole, then it would be able to run right down the wall over the top of our footer, and then we'd be able to channel that into our perimeter drain. What is the best option there for us to be able to do that with the intention of fully insulating the basement? Or can I just spray closed cell spray foam insulation on that? And would that cause a problem if that got wet, or would that block the holes? I don't know. I'm not opposed to putting the dimple backing board on there. I just would like to know what would make the most sense. I don't want to take all the time to put the dimple back board on if the closed cell spray foam insulation would literally do the exact same thing or keep the water out. Ideally, I would like to waterproof the outside of the basement as well, but since our foundation wall looks like this, that is going to be pretty much impossible unless I literally pour a whole nother wall right here, which I don't really want to do and I don't think would be necessary. So I think the dimple backed membrane on the inside here would probably be our best bet. But if you have experience in this area, I would really appreciate your feedback on this. One more thing to add to that, let's say we have the dimple-backed vapor barrier on here. Is it better to take the spray foam insulation and put it right on that dimple-backed vapor barrier? Or do we frame up our wall and put some sort of backing on our studs, and then we end up spray foaming the cavities of our studs so that way we're not spraying to the wall? What is the better way? To spray directly to the wall, or to spray to the, if we put something on the backside of our studs? Question number 2 also has to do with spray foam insulation, but this time with our floor. Before we spray foam insulate the floor, would it hurt anything to put down a layer of plastic? I just figured it would be an extra layer of water deterrent, and it would also be an extra layer of radon gas protection from ever being able to work its way up through the floor. Would it hurt anything if I put plastic down, or would it just overall be a bad idea and a waste of time? Speaking of plastic, question number 3, when we pour our footers on top of this gravel, should we lay down a layer
of plastic. It seems like you talk to one person who's been pouring concrete for 30 years, and they say, yes, you should plastic everything. And then you talk to the next person who's been laying concrete for 30 years, and they say, no, you should not be plasticking anything. That's an old thing, and there was an unnecessary reason they did it in the first place. So what is it? Should we lay down the plastic, or is it unnecessary? I don't mind doing the work to do it. Is it going to hurt anything if we do it? Is there pros, cons? I'm very interested to know what we should do.
So looking at my list on these next ones, I have the basement floor heat. I need to figure out how much line that we're actually going to be running over the floor. I want one every 12 inches, so I really just need to kind of calculate out square footage here and just figure out how much material we are going to need. I know how to do that, I haven't done it yet. That same thing is going to apply to the rebar that is going to be going into the floor, and then when it comes to our footers, we need to figure out what our exact total dimensions are going to be for exactly how long, how wide on the back, and then our little kick out area. So that way I can just get everything added up. I can get into a concrete calculator, and then I can figure out exactly how many yards of concrete that we are actually going to need. Question number 4 has to do with my septic lines and my septic tank. Now I understand that I need to get a permit with my county, and they will send somebody out. Now when they send somebody out and they kind of do their field evaluation, is there anything that I need to know before they come out? Are they going to try to basically make it look like I need to do certain things when I actually only need to do this thing? What are the minefields that I need to avoid with the septic system process? And then also, when I go to install my septic tank, how do I get permitted to be able to do that? What does the permittation process look like? Or do I just need to find somebody who is certified who would be able to do it? Like, am I able to get permitted to do it, or do I need to go to 6 years of classes? I would like to know that, because we have all the equipment to be able to do it. I know we could do it, and I know we could do it significantly cheaper, but it's more of a, am I actually allowed to be able to do that? Because fun fact, if you didn't know, a septic tank costs like $1,200, and then all the drain lines that percolate out into your yard, the leach field, those lines cost like 32 cents a foot. So you can put a whole system in yourself for like $2,000 if you have the equipment to be able to do it. But if you have somebody come out and do it, it's gonna be like $12,000. Question number 5, when it comes to our footers, what is my best forming method? We want the footers to be 12 inches thick. They're going to be 3 feet wide, so they're going to be some pretty big honkers. Are 2x12s going to be my best bet, and then just supporting them a ton with rebar driven down into the ground and then straps across the top? Or does it make more sense to rent some good metal forms and then be able to put them up that way? Because either way, once we get done pouring concrete, our 2x12s are probably going to be about shot, or they're just going to be used kind of for scrap things around the project. I don't know. I've never really poured footers like this before. We'd always used ground as the forms in the past. So what is my best option here? Use the 2x12s and be able to use them for other things around the job site, or rent the good metal ones that aren't going to be bending or going anywhere, and then just have to bring them back, and that money's gone in the rental. What's the best option? Back to my list right here. My footer rebar needs to be calculated. We know we are going to have a bunch of rebar down in the footers. I just need to get everything all added up with the dimensions and then figure out how much that we need to get ordered. Question number 6, foundation wall forms. What ones do I want? We are going to be going like 13 or 14 feet tall. Actually, see that I-beam that's above my head? It's going to be going all the way to there from where I am currently standing. They're going to be that tall. I've been looking at some Simon's forms. I think those would probably be the easiest to tie everything together and then be able to put things on the inside if we need to, for break spots, for it to be able to crack for the expansion joint or whatever you would call it. Are the Simon's forms the best, or is there a better option? It is going to be Roman and I for sure setting them up, and then we will be able to get Zach and Cooper's help potentially from time to time, and maybe Dad and Justin if they are feeling rambunctious. So we want something simple, but we also, it needs to be really strong because that is a lot of weight. I'm assuming we're probably going to have to pour it in a minimum of 2 lifts, potentially 3. I would be also curious on that. If you've ever poured a 14-foot wall before, do you pour it in 2 or 3 lifts? And I know there's going to be a lot of bracing with it. There's going to be a lot of rebar inside the wall. It's going to be some work. But what forms and how do we go about that?
with pouring the lifts. By the way, the wall is also going to be 12 inches thick, so 14 feet tall by 12 inches thick. Question number 7, there's going to be a retaining wall going from me over straight in that direction towards you. And then perpendicularly, we are going to have the 14-foot tall foundation wall. I would like the wall for the retaining wall to be able to be a monolithic pour with our foundation wall. But the problem is, right above my head, it's going to be 14 feet tall, but right here, it's going to be about 5 feet tall. How do I monolithically tie the two together? Is there a special section of form? If there is a special section of form, what is that section of form called for me to be able to make a 5-foot high wall right here to be able to get it monolithically tied to my big, tall foundation wall? Or do I just need to basically make this act like a corner right here with the forms? Or how do I go about tying these two together? And question 7 has a part 2. We are going to have a half hexagon bump out right here on the house. Now, I've not done any research into this, so I really don't know. I'm just asking because I was looking over here and thinking about it. Do they make forms that have like a 22.5-degree angle on them so I can make this half hexagon shape for the bump out of the house? And if they do, are the Simons ones still the best for this, or is there a better brand? Please keep in mind that with the farms, we are going to be 14 feet off the ground, and we are going to have to walk along the top of those to be able to run the pumper truck, to be able to get the concrete down inside of those. So I would like ones that have the ability to mount a scaffolding system of some sort up to the top, so that way we can actually walk around. And speaking of the concrete pumper, question number 8, when it comes to the concrete pumper, now outside we're gonna have one of those big boom ones, and then when we do the floors in the basement, we are going to use a line pumper. But number 1, do we need to have a special type of concrete in order for it to be able to run through the pumper? Do we need smaller aggregate? Is it a different mixture, lower PSI, higher PSI? Do they put a water reducer in there? Do we use a water reducer for that, or do we just go regular? What kind of concrete do we need to do specifically for the pumpers? And then question number 2, which may answer my question number 1, how does that work with the concrete pumper and the concrete company? Do I get in contact with the concrete company and tell them I want to use a pumper, and then they find a pumper for me? Or do I go find the pumper guy and tell them that I want to use the concrete, and then he gets a hold of the concrete people? Or do I get a hold of them both separately and then have to schedule everything together so that way they are here at the same time? How does that work? Question number 9 revolves around pouring our floors. I just mentioned a water reducer, but I want to know, when it comes to the floors, are we going to want a water reducer? I'm assuming we are going to want one because it's going to make it a lot easier, but I've never worked with one before. So what is the experience on working with water reducers? And then what do I tell the concrete company? Are there different types of water reducers, or is there just one type? Do I have to give them a specific amount? If so, how much? So really, how much and what type of water reducer do I tell the concrete ready mix plant? Looking at my list, it looks like that is the last of my questions. The last little item that I need to do here is just calculate how much rebar is going to be in the foundation walls. We are going to be doing a double mat, and it is going to be 12 inches on center, both vertically and horizontally. So there's going to be a lot of rebar. We are going to be having a big rebar order come in for this entire project, because we're going to have it for the floor, we're going to have it for the footers, we're going to have it for the foundation walls, we're going to have it for the floor here, we're going to have it for the footer right here for the retaining wall, as well as the retaining wall, and then our floor up inside of here. Putting all this rebar in this project makes me kind of chuckle a little bit, and it makes me think of my Grandpa Ray, because when I was a little boy and I was pouring concrete with my Grandpa Ray liked to pour a lot of concrete, but he never put anything inside of it. So if they said 8 inches was good, his philosophy was 14 was better. And so maybe if he had an old steel fence post or something, he might have chucked that inside of the concrete, but he never put any rebar in. And so now that we're building this, just putting all this rebar in, it just kind of makes me think of my grandpa and how he would never put rebar in anything. He would just pour the concrete thicker. So if my grandpa was doing this, we'd probably have like a 14-inch thick basement floor with no rebar in it. Now, last but not least, I would like to thank everybody who has been tuning into all of the episodes that we have been putting out over the 100% restoration and remodel of my great-great-grandfather's mansion, and also of all the farming videos that we do, just all of our videos in general. It means more to me and my family than you could ever imagine, And I just wanted to say thank you. It has changed our lives, and all the people that have been able to help us, it has also had a major impact on their lives. And through all of this, you guys have also changed a lot of other people's lives by being able to help certain people in my life when I have asked for it, whether that's through prayers or through financial giving to be able to assist them through hard times or through some of the financial hardships that they may be facing. And so I just want to sincerely say thank you for everything you guys do, and thank you for spending the time with us and choosing to spend your time with us. It means a lot. With all that being said, if you have any answers to the questions that I have, I would greatly appreciate those down in the comments below. Otherwise, this is our construction update. We have a lot of work that needs to be done, and our goal is to get it done before it gets really cold. And we have harvest coming just right around the corner, so I have a feeling that we are going to be doing a lot of this work in some extremely warm clothes. But hey, that's the adventure in it, and if it was easy, everybody would do it. This is all we got for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.